we will be now looking at the lateral ventricle. As we all are aware, the ventricles of the telencephalon, that is the cerebrum, are called as lateral ventricles. There are two in number, one in each cerebral hemisphere. The lateral ventricle is basically a C-shaped cavity which is lined with ependyma. Each lateral ventricle communicates with the third ventricle of the diencephalon through an interventricular foramen of Monro. So each lateral ventricle is having four parts: a central part, an anterior horn, a posterior horn, and an inferior horn. This is a diagrammatic representation of the lateral ventricle. As you can see, the green color part, it is C-shaped. We can see the three horns over here. This is the anterior horn which lies in the frontal lobe, the posterior horn which lies in the occipital lobe, and the inferior horn which lies in the temporal lobe. Now we come to the central part of the lateral ventricle, which is mostly lying within the parietal lobe, extending from the interventricular foramen anteriorly to the splenium of the corpus callosum behind. In the coronal section of the brain, it appears triangular, so represents a floor, a roof, and a medial wall. The floor is formed from lateral to the medial side by the caudate nucleus, the stria terminalis, the thalamostriate veins, and the thalamus, whereas the roof is formed by the body of the corpus callosum. The medial wall is occupied by the septum pellucidum, which is the partition between the two lateral ventricles. So we can see this dark shaded area. It is the central part, or also called as body of the lateral ventricle. So here we are looking at the coronal section of the brain, where you can see these two lateral ventricles, 1 and 2. Here below you can see the labeled T letter, which is the thalamus. This part over here labeled is the caudate nucleus. So it is triangular and cross section, the roof being formed by the body of the corpus callosum, the floor formed by the caudate nucleus, the thalamostriate vein, the stria terminalis, and the thalamus from lateral to medial aspect, and the medial side or the medial wall over here, it is formed by the septum pellucidum. A doubt may come in mind as to what this stria terminalis is. We can see this diagram of the limbic system, where you can see a blue colored ring over here which is occupying the periphery of the thalamus. It is called as the stria terminalis. Right? Basically, the stria terminalis, it is a band of fibers running along the lateral margin of the thalamus, and it is a major output pathway of the amygdala. Amygdala, stria terminalis, they are both part of the limbic system, and it is basically connecting the centromedial division of amygdala to the ventromedial nucleus of the hypothalamus. So we can just remember that it is a connection between the amygdala and the hypothalamus, and it is a part of the limbic system. The amygdala, as we have seen the stria terminalis, now let us look what the amygdala is, or the amygdala are. And since there are two in number, they are roughly almond-shaped cluster of nuclei located deep and medially within the temporal lobes of the brain, and they are concerned with processing of memory, decision making, and emotional responses. As we all know, the limbic system basically is concerned with this emotional aspect and also part of the memory. Emotional aspect which include fear, anxiety, aggressions. So this amygdala is dealing with it, and as I told earlier, they are dealing with the limbic system. So this is one more diagram where we are seeing the connections of the limbic system. Here we can see this is the corpus callosum. Below the corpus callosum, here you have the fornix, right? Just below the fornix, you are having this green colored fiber, which is basically the striata terminalis. Here is the amygdala present in the temporal lobe. From here, the striata terminalis, it is a bundle of fibers which are reaching towards the hypothalamus, right? So why we have seen this? Because we have seen the striata terminalis, which was part of the floor of the central part of the lateral ventricle. So I hope we are clear with what the striata terminalis is and the amygdala is. Again, we can zoom here, you can see the amygdala. One more diagram where the amygdala can be seen clearly as a red colored almond shaped collection of nuclei. There are again subdivisions of the amygdala, but we will not go to that right now. Again over here you can see the amygdala, and the purple color ring, it is the striata terminalis reaching towards the area of the hypothalamus. Now we look at the anterior horn, which we earlier saw it was occupying the frontal lobe. So it is lying anterior, the anterior horn, it is lying in front of the interventricular foramen behind the posterior surface of geno of corpus callosum. We are all aware of the geno of the corpus callosum. So this is also the anterior horn, also on coronal section looks triangular in shape. So it is also having a roof which is formed by the anterior part of body of corpus callosum. It is also having a floor which is occupied by the caudate nucleus and the rostrum of corpus callosum, and the medial wall, it is formed by the septum pellucidum. So here you can see the anterior horn shaded in dark or green, which is present. This is where the interventricular foramen is present. This is the diencephalon, and the cavity of the diencephalon, that is the third ventricle, shaded in blue. So the connecting part between these two is the interventricular foramen, which you can see over here. This one. So the anterior horn is lying basically in front of the interventricular foramen. So here again, this is the section, coronal section of the brain, where we just need to understand where the rostrum is present over here, right? This is the body. This is the typical central, you can see this is the lateral ventricle, right? You can see the thalamus over here, and the interventricular foramen is present over here at this region, right, where it is connecting with the third ventricle. So this is again a section, a transverse section of the brain, where you can see this is the area of the anterior horn of the lateral ventricle, where at the base you are having the caudate nucleus. The roof is again formed by the corpus callosum over here, you can see. Yes, and the medial wall, it is occupied by the septum pellucidum. Right. Now we come to the posterior horn. So posterior horn, as I told earlier, it is occupied in the occipital lobe, and it presents the following walls in coronal section again. In the medial wall of the posterior horn, there are two convexities which are basically formed due to two structures. The upper convexity is formed by the bulb. It is called as the upper bulb of posterior horn. It is formed due to the forceps major, and the lower convexity, it is formed due to the calcarine sulcus. The calcarine sulcus, which we had seen earlier, it is present on the medial surface of the occipital lobe. So these two structures, that is the forceps major of the corpus callosum and the calcarine sulcus, present two convexities on the medial wall of the posterior horn. And the rest of the part, that is the roof and lateral wall, they are formed by the tapetum of corpus callosum. Now what is the tapetum? So basically the white matter fibers projecting from the body and the fibers from the splenium of the corpus callosum which do not go to the forceps major, they are called as tapetum. We'll just look at the tapetum later on. So this is the posterior horn shaded in green. So this is a diagram where we are looking at the corpus callosum. So here you can see the forceps minor. This is the body. Here you can see this is the forceps major. At this part I have already labeled the tapetum over here. See the fibers running from the splenium as well as the body but not taking part in the forceps major. So these fibers, see this. And this part, this is the tapetum, and here you can see the posterior horn of the lateral ventricle in purple. So the lateral wall, well as the roof of the posterior horn of the lateral ventricle, it is occupied by the tapetum of the corpus callosum. This is the cast of the lateral ventricle. Very nice. So you can see this is the anterior horn, this is the central part, this is the inferior horn, and this is the posterior horn. You can see this the third ventricle, that is ventricle of the diencephalon. This is the interventricular foramen of Monro, right? You can see the cerebral aqueduct, which is the cavity of the midbrain, and this is the fourth ventricle. So we come to the last part, that is the inferior horn of the lateral ventricle. It is basically the largest horn, as considered a direct continuation of the main ventricular cavity into the temporal lobe. Appears as a transverse slit in coronal section, and it presents a roof and a floor. So again, the roof is basically laterally formed by the tapetum, and medially it is formed by the tail of the caudate nucleus and stria terminalis. Floor is occupied by the collateral eminence. Collateral eminence, it is due to the collateral sulcus. And medially the floor is occupied by the hippocampus. So the area where the inferior and posterior horn diverge, this is called as the collateral trigone. So this is the inferior horn, shaded in green. We again come back to the same diagram. This is the transverse section. So here this is the central part of the lateral ventricle. This is the frontal lobe occupying the anterior horn. This is the inferior horn, right? So inferior horn, the floor is formed by the collateral eminence and the hippocampus, right? Roof, it is laterally occupied by the tapetum, and medial it is occupied by the caudate nucleus, tail of caudate nucleus and stria terminalis. So see here you can see the caudate nucleus. This is the tail of the caudate nucleus. Here the tail is slightly removed over here, or not clearly visible, but the tail is forming the roof of the inferior or the caudate nucleus along with the stria terminalis. See here you can also see the convexity due to the calcarine sulcus, which is also called as calcar avis. See this convexity, pardon me, it is due to the calcarine sulcus. And the forceps major is also present over here, which also produces a convexity over here. You can see the collateral trigone also over here. This is the area where the inferior horn and the posterior horn diverge. So this is the actually the trigone, where you can see the posterior horn is going posteriorly and the inferior below. So this area, it is called as the collateral trigone, where you can see it roughly it shapes it represents this area, a triangle, where one extension is going towards the inferior aspect forming the inferior horn, one is going towards the posterior aspect forming the posterior horn. Right, so we come to the applied aspect of the ventricle. There is a condition which is called as ventriculomegaly, means the enlargement of the ventricular cavity above its normal. Is this condition is closely associated with mental disorders such as hydrocephalus, Alzheimer's disease, dementia, schizophrenia. It is basically due to the increased brain pressure due to the enlargement of the ventricular cavity. It is also associated with movement disorders like Parkinson's and Huntington's disease. Now, the causes of this ventriculomegaly are basically either the surrounding structures of the ventricle may undergo atrophy, due to which the ventricles may increase in size, or there may be a blockage in the flow of the cerebrospinal fluid or the venous flow, which may lead to the ventriculomegaly like conditions. Hence, we have seen the lateral ventricles, its parts, its relations, and the relation of each part, and the applied aspect of the ventricles. I hope we all are clear of this topic right now.